Alrighty, I'm here. Sorry for the minor delay. We will get started in just a minute. If you are watching on social media or you're on your device, you can share, drop a like if you're on YouTube, and subscribe if you are on Twitch or YouTube, or if you're watching via Twitter, you can follow me, of course. Today we will be continuing a project that I started about a month ago, I think, and that is the up and cutting barbershop. I kind of got tongue twisted there. Up and cutting barbershop front-end project. Basically, we will be building pretty much what looks like a real project. So I'm going to be running through all of the details involved in the process from start to finish. We'll be working with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for the most part, and we'll also be doing, well, we did some mockups. Well, we did a mockup and a wireframe, but we'll also be doing another mockup after we work with the first version to build initial draft of the actual live website. So it's kind of like a live mockup, but the benefit of that is that could be turned into the final project if our fictional client decides to go forward with that, and if not, then we'll go with another option. But in any case, you get the point. We're basically building websites almost from scratch, really. Well, yeah, from scratch. I shouldn't say almost. We're building from scratch, and you're gonna get to see the entire process. So if you haven't seen the earlier parts of this series, you can go back to my YouTube channel and Twitch channel, and you can watch from there. On Twitch, the videos will be available for a period of time. On YouTube, they will be available in perpetuity. So you can go back and watch them from there. You can also watch them on Twitter, but it's a little harder to find them. So I suggest subscribing on YouTube, and you can watch them all from there. When it's all complete, I'll drop them in a playlist. That'll be nice and shareable and everything, and then you can follow from there. So, right, all that being said, I'm going to hop on over to VS Code shortly, and we will jump right into the actual design of this mockup, which we would have started actually last week. We did the HTML, and now I'm going to be building one version of the CSS. And of course, as I explained last week, since the CSS and HTML are separate, we can reuse the same HTML for two different mockups or more. Any amount of them, we can use the same HTML, just different CSS. Alright, so all that being said, let's get started. Alright, so you should be seeing Google Chrome at this point. It's a little bit off center, so let me just fix that. Alright, there we go. And I'm also going to bring up VS Code. Let me just add that window to the screen, and then you should be able to see that as well. You're not going to see me today because I didn't feel like showing myself today on camera. I don't think that should be a big deal. Most of you know who I am already. If you haven't seen me, you can look at the previous videos, but I will not be visible today, unfortunately. Alright, so here we have VS Code open, and Google Chrome as well. Now, if you can't see VS Code, just drop a note in the chat and I will try to enlarge it for you so you can actually see what I'm working with here. Alright, so this will allow me to basically work from my two monitors, and hopefully you can see clearly. If not, as I said, just let me know and I will fix it. Probably will have to work with them side by side on a larger monitor, whichever works. Alright, so in the previous streams you would have seen this outline already. When I get to posting on the blog most likely today. I was supposed to do this before, but got a little busy. When I post this stuff on the blog, you'll be able to look at the outline in full. But basically this tells us that Up and Cutting is a new barbershop in the downtown fictional city of whatever, looking to capture new clientele and become the #1 barbershop in the area. And we went through their needs, which are very simple, so they didn't give us a lot of information to run with. And that's simply that they need us to build them a website to attract new customers and explain the business to them. Now, it would have covered quite a bit on what happens in an instance like this where a client doesn't give you much information on what to do, so you can go back and watch the previous episodes in this series and catch up on that. I won't run through all of it, but I covered that the possible features we would need would be testimonials, photos of past customers, a contact form, map showing location, and social media links. So all of those we have covered in the HTML code, and now today we're going to actually style that code. Alright, so let me close this getting started thing. I don't need that, and I'm going to move the index over to here so I have more room. And I'm also going to need the sidebar. Now I'm accustomed to Atom, by the way, so if you see me missing anything on here, it's just simply that I'm not a Visual Studio Code person per se. I'm more of an Atom guy, so I'm more at home there with everything. Yeah, alright, so we have, for those who don't know, we have a number of HTML files that will actually be loading their content from within these files here, which would be home, locations, and showcase. These two index files will allow us to go to the home page /locations and /showcase, but I'll explain all of that later after we get the CSS completed. But you can go back to the previous streams as well and see the basics covering that. Alright, so we're gonna need a new file now, which will be under the CSS folder, and that is mockup0.css. Okay, this did not create the file. This did it, or is this just being silly? Alright, I'm going to delete this because it didn't create the file as it should. Normally this works, but sometimes it gives me trouble. So let me create the folder first and then create the CSS file again, mockup0.css. And I don't need this sidebar anymore, so I'm going to hide that. And the first thing that I usually add to my mockup, well, to my CSS, sorry, is a very simple wildcard that will apply no padding and no borders, and border box as the box sizing value. Right, I was trying to run through in my head while typing, so if I sounded a little bit robotic just now, that's why I was thinking and trying to type at the same time, but one of them overrode the other. Alright, border sizing. Sorry, not border, it's box sizing. I always go with border the first time I'm typing that and then remember box and not border. Sorry, box sizing is the property that we want, and border box is the value. And then the next thing we want to add is our variables, which we have not determined yet, so just put a declaration block with root as our selector, and we will fill in our variables there. But just so you know what that is, let me add a comment. I don't need two of those. I just did that for style, by the way. For those who are not familiar with CSS, that was for style. Anyway, so to do, add any variables that we need. identify and list all variables here. So we will get back to that step in a little bit. And there is one more thing I need to do before I go any further, because you're not going to actually see this file loaded over here as yet, which is that I need to turn on a live preview. So let me get the palette and live preview. Wait a minute. Oh, I forgot one key in my keyboard command. Right, there it is. Show live preview. And I should be able to open this over here. Okay, wrong number. Let me see if it's 5,000. Okay, not that one either. Okay, I had opened the wrong one. I have two extensions installed, so that's what happened. I was using the wrong one. Alright, so we're looking for streams, projects. I don't mean to drag. My mouse is just being itself. Thank you, Firefox. We don't need you. I know you're my default browser, but don't need you, Firefox. Alright, mockup and iteration 0. Here we are. So I can close this over here in VS Code. And now whatever we do over here in VS Code should show up over there in Chrome. Alright, so where was I? I need to link this CSS file. I forgot to do that as well. So let me just do that quickly. Link href css slash mockup0.css. And as you can see, automatically everything got shifted to the left because now there is no more default padding, no more default margin. And I'm also going to pull up the mockup as well so that we can actually see what we're supposed to be building. So just give me a second to get that open. Now you're not going to see this process on the screen until I actually open the mockup. So just bear with me for a second. I forgot to open the mockup first, but we'll get there shortly. Alright, that should be... I forgot it was actually inside this folder, so we can open it directly from in Google Chrome. That is option0.svg. Right, here we go. And this is one of the reasons why I used Inkscape in this process when I was building this, because SVG is natively supported by the browser. I didn't need to use anything like Figma or anything so custom, so I can directly load the SVG in the browser. I can even copy the text and everything. I can inspect this. If I were to actually have added CSS to this, which is another possibility, I could actually copy the CSS values from there. If I wanted to, I could even make this an interactive mockup directly in CSS, but I am not in SVG, sorry, but I'm not a person who does all of that stuff in SVG. That is for some more advanced minds than mine. So, or more, I should say, it's just I haven't tried it yet. I haven't looked into it, but just so you know, you can actually do interactive SVG. So that's another little note there, and a little plug for open source and for open standards. For those who don't know why I would go with an open standard, It can be shared with pretty much anyone, work in any browser, and you can do quite a bit with it if you actually get to learn how to do it. But anyway, so this is the mockup that we're going to be working with. I don't need to have this open over here, the HTML version of it, at all times, because basically what I'm going to be doing is copying what I see here in CSS. Alright, so the first thing that we notice that we're going to need is a standard color for the oh, 1 second, folks. Sorry about that. I want to have a standard color for the logo, and so I'm going to add that variable in my CSS. So we're going to have a variable here that will be logo color, or we can even add a prefix to this so that it doesn't clash with any other things of the same name. So let's say we'll use UPC, or sorry, UNC, seeing as that is the initials of the company's name. And we're going to copy the color from that in a second. Let me just move this so y'all can see a little better. Alright, hopefully you can still see clearly here. If not, I'll just move VS Code to the same screen and share screens for both programs. Alright, so this color here, I'm going to actually use the inspector for this because I don't remember what color I used. I don't need this mobile view thing that's actually getting in the way. Alright, so I can select this right here. And then I can copy its color from here. So that would be fill of whatever value that is. Copy that hex value, drop it right here. Drop a semicolon at the end of that. And we have the color. Alright, I don't think I need anything else from those. The other color that we'll want is the standard text color, so I'm going to select this text right here and grab the color from that. And I'm going to duplicate this one, take out logo from the name, and then replace that value with that gray that I just copied. Oh, I just realized something, folks. You were not seeing the site this whole time because I forgot to switch scenes in OBS Studio. My mistake. Fixed. Alright, so you should be able to see everything now. My apologies to those who were completely puzzled as to what was happening there. I forgot to switch scenes when I changed around some stuff, and you were not seeing the website this whole time, so my apologies. Let me know though if you can see VS Code clearly and read everything, because I have it a little bit zoomed out and it may need to be a little bigger for you if you can't see. Alright, so this standard color here will be used for text and basically just about everything. And actually, one second, let me switch to screen capture mode. This will make life a little bit easier. Alright, you should be able to see both now side by side. Alright, let me see if there are any other colors that I need to copy. I believe the logo color is also used right here. I'm wondering though if this SVG is missing any details. So let me just check and see. Okay, it was missing some details. I knew it was missing something. Alright, I have the wrong file open. Oops. Sorry about that, folks. 1 second, let me fix some issues here if I can. I'll be right back. Alright, everything should be fixed now, although unfortunately due to how I had to set things up to avoid any glitches, you may see Google Chrome hiding behind VS Code a little bit, but hopefully it won't hide too much. Should still be able to follow along, I hope. Yeah, so right, we have everything in place, I think, in terms of colors. Set for, let me just add black as well. Well, not really a true black, but we're gonna have a darker color, so we're gonna call this UNC black, and that one I'll use RGB for because I'm more familiar with RGB than hex values, and it's quicker for my brain to figure out what I'm doing. Sorry, I tend to use 35, 35, and 35 in place of true black because it gives you good contrast, but it's still easier on your eyes. And I don't think I need any other colors when I look here at this mockup. So those variables are all good. Next thing we want to tackle is the navbar up top here. Well, actually let me tackle the header first, as the header is actually the first thing you see visually, so we're going to work with that first. Never mind that it comes a little further down on the page. Well, it's not as far down as the nav because the nav is after it, but it's still further down than the rest of the content. But yes, that's the first thing that we'll tackle, the header. So that is main header here. I think I'm going to rename everything to have that UNC prefix, just so that we can avoid any conflicts if, say, we were to use another like to use a framework, or if we were to use a library or anything and they just so happen to have similar names, we won't have any conflicts. So Let's go with UNC header. Well, UNC header main, and for that, we're gonna have height set to about, this looks like about 50 view height, and then aspect ratio. Well, let's not use aspect ratio, let's go with width. I wasn't going to use aspect ratio, but then it crossed my mind that could cause some issues, so we're going to go with 100 view width for that. And maybe we could, now I think about it, aspect ratio could still be a solution here, because if we use the view width, we can have the aspect ratio determined from the width. So that could be, alright, sorry, not 50, that could be 1 to 2. I believe that should do it. Or no, it's 2 to 1. By the way, if you ever see me on stream second guessing myself, sometimes these things are hard to remember and you have to on the fly correct yourself. Alright, so next thing after that is the nav, which I'm going to rename to, wait, this is the social nav, and then the main. Okay, so there's a social nav which is going to come in the corner here. Let me see if I can pull that up for you from the wireframe, because I didn't add it to the mockup when I did the mockup, but it is in the wireframe. So let me see if I can pull up the wireframe for you and show you that one. Alright, here it is, over on this side. Google Chrome is being special. I thought it would zoom in to the point where my mouse is, as it normally does, but it's not doing that with this SVG file. Anyway, so this is where the social nav will be, up in the corner there. Let me see, UNC socials nav and UNC socials menu. Right, so let's get 2 of those. UNC socials nav, UNC socials menu. Do I need anything else from them? Oh yes, UNC social divider. Let me add an S to this just to keep in confluence, or is that the word I'm looking for? But basically to keep it consistent with everything else. So UNC socials divider. Do I need anything else from here before I get to the next one? I don't think so. As for anything else that's within these, I will get around to those after I've put the basics in place. So let's see, we have main nav and main menu. So that'll be UNC main nav and UNC main menu. UNC main nav, UNC main menu. Good. Now we can get around to actually putting in some styles. And just as a practice for myself, this is not something you have to follow. I am following the mockup and not actually looking over here as yet, because nothing over here has changed really. I've just put the classes in place, and I'm about to actually add their properties so the the mockup can actually start to come into place. Can actually come together basically. Alright, so for this I'm going to add a background color, even though we don't need it, just so that it'll be visible on the screen. So let's add a random background color like black for now. And we'll get back to that when I actually get back to the website itself, that web page itself, to see what it looks like, because we'll have to check and see how the image fits and isn't stretched and all that stuff. But the other stuff we can begin to style just from here. So that would be the nav. That has a background color of white. In fact, let me give this a variable as well. So go with var unc. Let's go UNC BG color. And for that, we're going to use something close to white, but not exactly white. It's actually easier on your eyes if it is not precisely white, because it's not as bright. But it still looks close enough that most people will not distinguish that it is not truly white. Alright, so the color for this would be var UNC color. Height, we're going to go with 50 pixels. I believe that's how high this was. Let me just check on the inspector if it will give me those details. Right, alright, so this has the rectangle here. And the height is not actually set in pixels, is it? Alright, height is not set in pixels here, but it was when I was working in Inkscape. So if I were to open this in Inkscape, I'd actually get that value pretty much straight up. Let me see if I can grab it from over here. It's telling me the height is 17 pixels. I am pretty sure that is not true. The width is correct for sure, but I can tell you that is not 17 pixels height. It clearly has some kind of padding and border and margin. I don't really work with SVG from any inspector much, so I'm not sure if I'm missing something here, but anyway, I can almost assure you that it's 50 pixels based on the value that I used in Inkscape, and that's the value that you'll get back in the actual rendered SVG, so I'll leave it at 50 pixels. There's one thing I don't remember styling. That is the logo itself. So let me see if I had added okay, I didn't add anything to this, any class to this, so this should have a class of its own, and that is UNC logo. Alright, let me put UNC nav logo, because we may put the logo somewhere else. Just want to differentiate that. Alright, so UNC nav logo color var UNC logo color. Let's also add font weight to the nav, and then we're going to change the font weight of the logo itself to be a little bit thinner. So we're going to put these to 600 and font weight on the logo to 200. Let me see if it has pulled in anything over here. Yep, there we go. Starting to look like it's changing something. And the nav I'm going to set to display flex and flex flow, row, no wrap. Let me just check one thing here quickly. Am I styling the right one? Oh wait, I have the wrong nav selected. That's why things looked a little funny to me. Alright, so this needs to move down to main nav. My mistake. I knew something wasn't looking right there. I'm just going to move this down here as well. Let me debug something here quickly. Border 1px solid red. Okay, good. Just needed to make sure that was working as it should be. Alright, so display flex as well on the main menu. Justify content. Center. Then we want gap of about 15 pixels or so. I'm gonna turn off the list style. So list style none. And by the way, for anyone who hates having to build menus with an ordered list or list of any kind, I get it. There should be a standard element for menus in HTML, and there was. Just a little bit of history for those who don't know. There is actually a menu element, but it was never actually what it was supposed to be. So you can't use the menu element as you might expect. Okay, let's style the buttons now as well. So UNC main menu button. And let's turn off their border. Border none. Height 100%. Okay, good. Just was about to check something and then I looked across and realized, oh yeah, it worked. Alright, I'm gonna copy this, justify content center up to here. Now, these duplicated values, I'm eventually gonna put all under one thing under one selector, because anything that's overly duplicated can basically be put in one selector that covers all of those different styles that don't really need to be repeated over and over again. So after I get a certain point in this file, I'm going to go back through and make sure that I group all of those together as one. Alright, the buttons, back to the buttons. Let me give the buttons padding on their sides, so none on the top and bottom. And let's go with clamp being a CSS function, of course. We'll have a minimum value, so 15px the minimum. Let's go with about 10 view width as the standard thing, and the maximum we'll go with maybe about 25 pixels. 10 view width is probably actually going to be a bit bigger than that, so let me just check this quickly. Okay, it didn't really change anything, so that should be safe. And main nav, let me change the text transform to uppercase. Okay, it didn't actually apply to them because buttons are styled separately. And I just remembered I'm not using normalize, which would have normalized CSS, which would have also mitigated that issue. So I'm going to put it in the button declaration block. Alright, letter spacing. Let's put that to about 5 pixels. Okay, that's pretty big. Bigger than I expected. 2.5, or maybe less. Yeah. Alright. By the way, I'm not too fond of this font, this default font, so we're gonna change that before too long as well. I hate the default fonts in Google Chrome with a passion. They are ugly. they're just plain old ugly. Well, I just noticed something too. That's another issue you get with CSS and text. It can be a little frustrating. The padding on either side doesn't always look exactly the same because of how text works. So sometimes you have to set the padding on the left to be a little greater than on the right. So for that, I'm going to set it to 30 and 10.5 and 20. Not 25, 20. Good, there we go. That's looking a little more centered this time. Oh, and for the logo, where is that? UNC nav logo. Let me move this to the bottom of our stack here. I'm going to change the text transform to normal on this one. Well, none, sorry. Is that even picking it up? Let me just double check here. UNC nav logo. Alright, somebody is overriding somebody else. So I'm going to get a little more specific. Oh yeah, because I have UNC main menu button. So I'm going to go UNC main menu nav. Right, there we go. UNC nav logo, and now that's fixed. Just as a specificity issue, that was causing that. And I'm going to change this from none to capitalize. Right, that's accurate now. And let's also choose font variant, small caps. I think that should be more fitting with what the mockup has here. Oh no, it isn't actually, my bad. Still would have looked kind of nice, but let's take out the small caps. And let's also see if the letter spacing is any different. Doesn't look that way to me. So yeah, not any different on letter spacing. Alright, let me also add a variable up here. I know I'm kind of jumping here, but I hope you can still follow. I'm going to add a variable for the font. That would be UNC font family, and I'm going to use Lato and sans serif. And then I'm going to pull that in on the body. So body, font family, and then we pull in that variable var UNC font family. It should have changed to Lato, but it doesn't look like it did. So let me just grab that from Google Fonts quickly, in case it's not being pulled in by my browser. Oh, I already had some. I love Joss, by the way. Joss is a really nice font. So I'll probably use that. Even though in the mocha I had used that, I'll probably use that at some point because I just like it. Just happens to look really good. Alright, so let's grab... I thought this would have 200. I guess not. Let's grab 400. Feel almost like I'm playing Jeopardy at this point. Let's grab 400 and 300 and 100. And then we're going to import. Now this is generally not recommended to use import, but I still do because the alleged performance hit is so tiny that I don't really see why it's such a big deal. So I use it. Right, this still doesn't look like it's using Lato or Lato, however that's pronounced, on the body. So let me just check and see if it is the nav itself that's the issue. Okay, was somehow having an issue with the buttons not being styled as they should be. That can be frustrating, but fixed. I'm going to have to make these fonts a little bit bigger. So what I'm going to do up here is set a standard font size in the root. And then down here, I'm going to set the font size using root EM. So font size 1.235 rem. There we go. Much nicer. Well, let's also set their color. I forgot to set this earlier to var UNC color. So they have the right gray. Beginning to look a little more like the mock-up now. I'm going to set the background color of the menu itself to UNC background color, and the buttons as well, set their background color to the same thing. Some of this would be unnecessary if I were using normalize, a CSS normalizer, so like normalize.css or anything like that. But I didn't copy that into the project this time. Probably before next time I'll add it to the project, so some of this will become unnecessary. Because you'll find that typically browsers tend to style like the buttons, and as you can see they also style the anchor elements and everything by default, and it can be kind of poor the styling that is chosen for the browser by default. So I tend to change it myself. I'm just testing something here, by the way, because yeah, this is probably going to be best if I just leave it as plain white, even though slightly detuned, if you will, kind of white is better for your eyes. Plain old white looks better, at least on my screen, so I'm going to leave it at that. Alright, so back to the nav. Shadow is the next thing I want to add. So we're going to go with box shadow 008px RGB A 000.25. I added this to the wrong declaration block. My mistake. Let me move this up to the nav itself. We can also shift that downward by about 5 pixels, or maybe 3. Let's see if, yeah, 5 was better, because it was beginning to show above if it was at 3. And we can reduce this value here until we get something closer to what the mockup looks like. Let's just go and look at the mockup actually. Okay, that shadow is a little more subtle, so we'll need to increase the spread. So go with something like 12. Okay, maybe 18. Yeah, about 18 is good. And we can shift this downward to about 8. Let's reduce this to something a little later. It's a little more subtle, not too bad. Now sometimes you need a heavier shadow but still subtle. Here's a trick you can use. You can actually add a duplicate shadow. So I'm going to add another one here. Just put a comma and then add a duplicate shadow. So 0, same 8px, This time instead of 18, let me go with about 10 px, and then RGBA 0.09 or so. Okay, that's pretty thick. I don't want it to be that thick. Let me see if I can tweak this a little bit. Okay, I had put it down too far. That was my mistake. I'm going to increase the spread until I get the result that I'm looking for. Also reducing the thickness a bit because the two are going to overlap anyway, so I don't need it to be too thick. Alright, let me check over here now. Looking closer at what we had. Oh, let me move that down just to keep things in alphabetical order as well. And anything that I'm missing? I think I'm gonna make the nav a little taller as well, because the mock-up, I was saying 50 pixels, but maybe my memory is off just a bit because this looks taller than 50. Unfortunately, Google Chrome is not telling me the exact height, although, well then again, this is 198. No, 17.188. But that's same pixels, and that's clearly not the same value as what we have over here. This is at 50, and it's not nearly as tall. So I'm not sure what that actually is supposed to be. What the height is actually supposed to be, seeing as this is telling me 17.5. And I'm not doing any measurements today with image editor, but some days I actually do that. If I'm working with like a mock-up and it gives me one value and I see another, I'll take a screenshot, open my image editor, check it, and then be like, oh yeah, that's what it is. Anyway, not gonna fight with that today. Let's go with something like 80. Let's see if this is tall enough. Maybe a little too tall. Alright, 60 should be good. Alright, let me just check one quick thing here because our header should actually be visible and I'm still not seeing it. UNC main header. Let's see if I can find that in the inspector and find out what happened to it. Alright, here it is. Oh, it is actually not styled? Oh, would you believe it? I have the wrong name. So that should be UNC main header, not UNC header main. That would have an effect of that sort, I would assume. Alright, let's see if I have my values correct here. Good. That should be aspect ratio of 2 and 0.5 then, instead of 2 to 1. Background color is just fine. Designer logo. What is designer logo over here? Oh, that's the footer. The footer hasn't been styled either, so let me just go ahead and style that quickly. Usually I only use one footer, so this technically doesn't need a class, but it's good practice to use classes for everything, so I'm gonna actually go and add a class to this. UNC footer. I was gonna add something else to that. Doesn't need it though. So UNC footer. Let's drop this to the bottom of the page, and that will be position. Do I need position fixed on this though? Let me see. Oh no, I don't, yeah. Because everything else will be fixed in position, I believe. Display. Flex. Background color. This is temporary, of course. Just trying to see where it actually is. Border solid red. There you are. You know what? I think I did make a mistake when I was doing the HTML because I was thinking of a nav that stays in place. But now I think about it again, with how this mockup is built, this nav doesn't actually need to move. So I can move some stuff around and reshuffle things so that they go where they're supposed to be on the page. So since these are not on a scroll, let me just move them to the top of the page. Don't disregard what I said in previous streams though about putting stuff at the bottom for higher order in the Z-index. So if like you want your page to have a nav bar and header that don't scroll with the page, like they're stuck in position, you can put them at the bottom, use position fix or position sticky if you will. Either of those two will do the trick, and it will have the nav bar and header bar remain right here even as you're scrolling down the rest of the content. But for this particular project we're not going to do that, so I'm just going to put them where they're supposed to be and all is well. Alright, anything else I need for UNC footer? Alright, we have display flex already. Justify content center. In fact, this can be, yeah, justify content center and align item center. And we're going to set it to flex flow column. Let's add padding to this as well. Let's go at about 35 px and 15 view width. Let me check and see what we have over here in the mockup for this one. Okay, so the background color for this is going to be a darker gray. I forgot to add that background color to our variables. So I'm going to duplicate this one. UNC footer BG color. And I'm going to make it a lighter color than what we have here. Oops. Kinda hard to keep your mouse over this thing. Still handy though. Alright, that should do it. And back to the footer, background color. Let's change that to a variable. Var UNC footer BG color. And let's also add a margin at the top. Auto 0, 0, 0. Okay, there's one thing I forgot to do, which is why this didn't move. The body is not set to display anything, and that means that basically the body is not taking up the height of the container. So I'm going to set the body to display flex, flex, flow, column, justify content, space between, I believe, should do it. Okay, no. Well, yeah. Let me leave that there, and then height. 100 view height. There we go. Perfect. Now normally this would be an image, the designer logo, but since this is a mock-up, kind of like a live mock-up, I'm going to change this to a div and recreate it in CSS. Class, UNC designer logo. Let's come down to the bottom of our CSS file and add that class. UNC designer logo. We're gonna set it to transform, rotate 45 degrees. Background color is var UNC black. Height 50 px. Width 50 px. And there we are. So that's the same kind of logo we had over here in pure CSS. Let's see what else is in this footer that we need to style. We have a section, and we have 2 articles and a horizontal line. So let's get UNC footer, section, display flex, before I get to justify content, flex flow first. That would be column, gap, let's go with about 15 pixels. And I don't think I need to do justify and align and all that. Should be pretty straightforward as is. So UNC footer article, let's give them each a border 1px solid var UNC black, padding 15 pixels by 25 pixels, width, let's go with about 65 view width. Okay, we are going to need to align item center on this just to keep things centered. Align items center, right? UNC footer HR. We're also going to style that because that should be stretched. As you can see in the actual mockup here, that should be stretched almost to the ends of these. So that will be approximately, let me see, I have these set to 65 view width. I would approximate that that is about 45 view width or so. So I'll set width to 45 view width, height 2 pixels, background color var UNC black. Alright, let's see if we can make this a little taller. Right, and let's turn off the border, none. So border none. Alright. 2 pixels was what I wanted originally, yes, there we are. Let's make these articles a little bit taller as well. First one red, copyright. Alright, let's just copy all this stuff here. Oops. Somehow I copied extra. What? How is this selecting all of that? You gotta be kidding me. Good. That's what I wanted. I didn't need all the extra stuff, Google Chrome. I don't know how you selected it. Alright, so designed by Roland Source Studios. Just gonna copy this and drop that in. Now, by the way, you'll notice I'm not doing a whole lot of instruction at this point because this is basically just straightforward CSS and HTML. Not too much for me to show and tell. At this point, we're just in the building phase, basically. But when we get past the point of building, I'm going to show you how I can actually take this CSS file out, replace it with another one, and come up with a completely different design, and our HTML will remain exactly the same. Like, we could have completely different functionality, completely different layout, different colors, different everything, and it's still the same file in the HTML. Okay, it wasn't that big of a gap, I missed it. Let me leave that at 15. Make this bigger because it is bigger in the mockup than what we have over here. And this color should be different. Let me actually just copy the color from right here. I forgot I could do that. Copy. And where is it? Here. Paste. There we go. Keeping everything nice and exact. Can take off the border as well because we no longer need that border. That was just for debugging purposes. Somebody has an extra border and I can't tell who it is. It's probably the nav. But then again, it doesn't look like it has an extra border. Can't quite tell why there's one. Alright, so let's debug this again. Border solid red. Alright, so I'm not sure if that's actually the issue because what we're seeing here is not from the nav. So what is hiding underneath the nav? Let's find out. Alright, so we have the header, we have the nav, we have another nav. Oh, I see. It's an HRE here. I forgot that that was even there. So we can actually add a class to this. UNC, let's see what this is actually supposed to be. Right, oh yeah, it's supposed to be this divider right here. So we'll call it UNC testimonial div. drop it under here. UNC testimonial div, background color, that should be UNC logo color. Probably still has the default border from horizontal lines on, so border none. Right there, it's gone. Height 2 pixels. Alright, let's see, height 1 pixel. Margin 0. 5 and 0px, so I have those mixed up. Let's find the oh, that's actually inside of another file. I'm gonna have to find the testimonials as well and style those, but they're not actually going to be in this file by default, because they'll get loaded by JavaScript. So I'm going to pause on the CSS for just a moment and we'll fix that loading issue. Well, not really fix, we'll implement that loading issue so that you can actually see what I'm talking about and how that works. Alright, so that's home.html and it has some other, right, it should have some other classes inside of this. Good. So what we're going to need to do here is add a script. And I'm going to pull this. I'm going to pull the JavaScript from a previous project of mine, which is called Toolbox. I actually copied an Ajax piece of Ajax loading JavaScript that will allow me to load files from anywhere on the server. So let me just find where I have that. Right, code, libraries, JS, toolbox, there we go. And somewhere up in this file I should have Ajax related function. I can't remember the name of it actually. Oh yeah, load content, here it is. So I'm going to copy and paste this and then I'll explain what it does basically. Sorry, this load content function will basically, this is a variable here called location, and the location is on the page itself on the HTML. So you get the element by its ID. In this case though, we're going to actually change this to query selector instead of get element by ID. And instead of location, we're going to use main. So we'll only need to load this one argument here, which is description source. And right, so I don't need this comment here, by the way. So what will happen then? We have another variable here, which is basically a new XHTML HTTP request, as you can see, pretty self-explanatory. That will then be used to run this other function here, which is to pull the file described by description source, and that in that case I'll be home.html, and pass it on through Ajax to the page itself. And I'm not going to go through all this stuff here, this fancy stuff here. Not so much that it's above my head, just that it's kind of unnecessary to run through all the details on that. And then after we run through that, once it is sure that the stuff exists, it will pump all of that into the location variable, which of course is the main, in this case the main element, and send basically, which is saying, yeah, we got through, everything works. So now all we need to do is onload. Let's see, where is it? Body. We'll add an onload to this, and we will run load content. And in here we'll put home.html. They're saying it's not possible without body or head tag. What happened now? There is a body tag. Did something go wrong? It shouldn't. Alright, well here we are. So it did work. Not sure why Live Reload keeps telling me that there's no body tag, because there is a body tag, obviously. So basically now if I change this over here, watch and see what will happen automatically. See, that gets added, and I didn't have to. Thank you, Live Reload. We don't need that error message again. We don't need to go back and edit the index HTML. Home will always have that content that we need. We can style it using the same CSS file because it is now part of index HTML once it's loaded. So we can style it with just that CSS file. And yeah, basically that's how you would load that content. So all the other pages on the site can load from these files here using the same method. And as I explained in the last stream, they use, okay, let me load those indexes. Right, they use the base tag here, which will reference to the higher level folder, which has all the content that we want to load. And so we'll basically be doing the same onload thing on all of these, loading into the main, and that will allow you to share content between different parts of the page that you can then update on the fly. And that is without having to use a content management system. Now how cool is that? No complicated PHP, no complicated anything like that. Simple HTML, CSS, and JS. Very simple and straightforward, and you can have stuff that basically gets updated every time you change a file, a single file. Oh, and the other benefit is you share content between different pages across your site without having to duplicate content all over the place. No need for a framework, no need for a CMS, all that stuff. Not saying that those things are bad, that's not the point we're making here. Just that you can simplify your life quite a bit and still have some dynamic functionality. Alright, so all that said and done, now we know that we can load this content, we can style it using the CSS. So let me hop over to here and see what classes we have. We have a section with the class info box, and that on the mockup would be these two boxes right here. Oh, well, one of those two boxes, my mistake. So there's info box and then there's testimonials. Is there? Oh yeah. Alright, right. I got it right the first time. I don't know why I corrected myself. There's info box, which is the section, and then within the section there are two articles, which is notices and story. Those are going to be styled slightly differently, but the parent will basically give them the majority of their styling. Alright, so where are we? Let's get to info box. I'm going to rename this to UNC info box just to stay with the style we've been going with before. I'm going to basically add UNC to every class that we have in here. So UNC info box, UNC notices, and UNC story. I'm going to duplicate this declaration block and add article. So this is the CSS combinator right here, UNC info box article. That will style these boxes with some default styles, and then notices and story will give them their individual uniqueness wherever needed. So okay, UNC info box is going to be styled, let me see, coming back over here, I'm going to add a margin to it. So margin 15 px at the top and bottom, and about, let's go at about 10 view width on the sides. Let me just make sure that we can actually see that these exist. Good, there they are. So let's call this events, and this one story. Actually need to see them so that we know what we're working with. So I'm going to add a border to these as well. That'll be border 1px solid var UNC black. I mean, these should do the trick. Yeah, there we go. Let's add gap 15 px display flex. Justify content. Well, we don't actually need that one, sorry. Align items, stretch. Width on these two will be 50%. Set the width of the info box to auto. Or better yet, let me go with calc 100 view width. Well, in fact, I don't even need to do a calculation. That's pretty straightforward. Why am I doing a calculation? That could be 80 view width. 10 view width on these sides though, like it is bigger than I'm expecting, so I'm going to reduce this to 5 and increase the width to 90. Yeah, that's looking closer to it. So just double check here on the mockup in SVG and make sure that's correct. I'm going to change this value to 10 view width. Looks closer to what we have over here. Yeah, that's good. Now for the articles, we're going to give them some pretty hefty padding. So padding should be something like the same, well, about half, sorry, of the spacing between these two items. And it's always good to keep your values consistent, of course. Even if, say, you have like spacing between two items set to 10, you could then put their padding to half of that space so that you know it is always relative to what value you used to space them, to space the individual elements. So like the spacing coming down from parent to child should be relative, is what I'm trying to say. And that not only is a matter of consistency, but it improves your aesthetics as well when you choose to use like relative values, so like half and a quarter and that kind of thing, or you could go in thirds, but basically always keep it consistent. So if you're gonna choose, let's say you choose to go with halves, you can also choose to go with thirds for something else, but there should be some consistency so that like you have it written down that if I go with half for the parent, or let's say if I go with half of the parent to space the two between, and then I go with a third for their padding, and then for like their font size, I might say go with a fifth or something like that. Write those down and keep them consistent throughout the entire thing. That's where like CSS frameworks tend to do the work for you, because usually some group of designers have gone together, or one designer, depending on who is the developer of the CSS framework, has gone together and decided on those proportions and ratios and everything like that for you. But if you're not the one who's responsible, well, sorry, if you are the one who's responsible, I would suggest like writing down everything and basically keep it consistent. Alright, so do I need to add anything else to these? Let me just check quickly. No, I think they're good as they are. Maybe just the font size we can increase a bit. Let's go with 1.35 rem. Good, there we go. I'll also increase the margin at the top there just to match this over here. Let's use view height for this, 2.5 view height, or view width, sorry. Yeah. Keeping our values matching as much as possible. Now I just noticed something too, that this HR probably needs to move over to home, so it doesn't need to be on the index. So let me drop that over here. Wait a minute. Aha, it's kind of redundant because a div was already over here for the divider, so that can go. Let me just change this to UNC testimonial divider, and I'm going to fix that in the CSS shortly because we already had the HR using those values. That HR was an imposter. Let's change height to width. Set it to a width of 2px. Height, let's go with 75%. UNC testimonial, what's it called again? Alright, UNC testimonials. Well, height auto is kind of redundant. I don't know why I used that one. Display flex, flex flow, column. What else do we have in this box? Alright, articles. Let's get those articles and style them so that we can begin to see what's going on inside of the invisible container. So UNC testimonial. UNC testimonials, article, border, 1px solid var, UNC black. I should have put this to row instead of column too, by the way. And wrap as well. So flat slow row wrap. That means that basically whenever these hit the end of whatever can fit in here, they'll be wrapped to some other row. So the articles will need to have a width, of course. let's add the, well, let's put the width to 50%. Align items to stretch. One of these, unfortunately, seems to have inherited some extra width or something. I'm not sure. Or is it... Let me see. I probably have this width set to wide. Is it that? Or is it not that? We will determine that in a minute. Oh, I see what happened. It's this divider here that's the issue. Because this here needs to be positioned absolutely. So... we can fix that in a second. UNC testimonial divider, position, absolute. And of course we have to then make sure that testimonials is set to position relative so that its child that is positioned absolutely knows that it is supposed to be positioned relative to its parent. Getting a little closer to what we have over here, of course. Okay, now the next thing. Testimonials is going to need a margin as well. So margin of 2.5 view width. Let's jump back over here. Alright, the gap is clearly not enough here. That should be matching the gap that I used for the others. Where was that? I kind of got lost in my CSS now. Oh, I see why. Because I dropped these all the way at the bottom of the file. Let me just move this stuff to the correct location so I don't keep getting lost. Oops. That was accidental. Trying to select, there we go. I was trying to get the start of that and it kept closing it. Good, now they're in the right spot and we can find back everything a little more easily. Info box has a gap of 10 view width, that's why. So here's what I'm going to do. Seeing as that gap is supposed to remain consistent between all these elements, I'm going to make that a variable. So we're going to have UNC info gap. When you're choosing variable names, you can usually, as a rule of thumb, try to choose stuff that is functional. So like info, we know that the testimonials and these two boxes up here, like events and story, are going to actually be informational. So I'm choosing the word info to cover everything. Let's change this one now to read var UNC info gap. Only problem is now that gap is too big because the articles are too wide. So we need to make these less wide, obviously. Let's put them to 40 view width, and there we go. Let me just check something up here and see, because they're still not quite equal. What do they do with info box that is different? Oh, I see. Testimonials did not have a width, so let's set that to width 95 view width. There we go. We can also set these to 50%, I believe. No, we can't. Wait, I know why. Because up here we have these set to 50%. So let's set them to 40 view width as well. And justify content center. Good. Now everything is exactly as it should be. Well, almost exactly as it should be, because obviously now the height between these is the problem. One thing I'm going to need to check, because I didn't check this before. Gap in CSS, I wonder if it has two values. Like if you can have it different top and bottom. Oh, it's shorthand for row gap and column gap. So I'm going to set row gap to half of that. Calc var unc info gap by 0.5. Now if you're wondering why I'm using calc instead of just putting it to half, it's because I basically want that if I change this variable, I don't need to come back down here and keep changing this value over and over. Right, there we go. So I can set that, and I can also change this on the fly without having to go back and figure out what is the height that I'm using as the gap between those objects. So I can just play around with this as I feel like, whenever I feel like. See? Pretty straightforward and easy. Alright, so let's drop these testimonials in as well, so that I can actually see what it would look like on the real thing. First one is this. Second one. Well, the second one has an image, so we will need to basically replicate that at some point. And again, if you would have watched the previous stream, you would see that we added an image because we're giving the customer, well, our client, different options for how the testimonials could look. So we can have an image off to the left or an image off to the right. We will get around to that shortly. Soon as I can copy this text. Alright, let me see if I can copy from down here. There it is. Oh, only one problem with SVG, it is certainly not like HTML if you want to copy the text. So I'll just type it back out again. Not too hard to type. Up and cutting is more than a, oh, I don't know why I had that capitalize, is more than a barbershop. It's a community. BR. It's a lifestyle. Don't need so many exclamation marks, that was for fun. And we're also going to drop an image in here, but we'll pretend this is an image this time. It's just going to be a div with a class of UNC testimonial image. And let's also add the class left to that. And then we will copy this to the last one and change left to right. Now over in our CSS, let's actually make that count for something. So we'll have, under articles, we'll have a wildcard selector here, class. And this wildcard selector basically says anything that equals to this, whatever is about to follow here. And that will be UNC testimonials. Well, sorry, how am I spelling? Testimonial image. And this will, of course, share these values between all of them. So border 50%. Sorry, border radius, not border. Border radius 50%. Background color var UNC black. Height 50 pixels. Width 50 pixels. We could obviously make it bigger than that. Yeah, about 100 pixels is good. And then left, float, left, and right, float, right. Now for those who dread floats, you see how easy and simple they are to work with? They're not so dangerous. They're actually quite good. Also shows that I'm one of those so-called geriatric developers who actually knows how to use floats. Not really. But yeah, floats are actually very useful for stuff like this. Much more useful than having to set up flexbots or a grid or anything like that and then work around all the complications that come with them. Alright, for these images, I'm also going to add a margin to them. So margin about 15 pixels. Well, let's add 0 top and bottom so that they don't add to the width. Just tweaking this until I get it to look like I want it to. Good, there we are. Looking good. Of course, this nav bar is going to need some work because it is not looking all that good anymore. But the mockup is beginning to look a lot like the image that we have over here. Let me zoom out a bit so you can actually see it in full. We're getting a lot closer to what we designed in Inkscape. Now, if I had done this in Figma, obviously I could just export the code, but personally I prefer to get down and dirty with my code and actually, you know, write it. So I don't typically favor that method. Not that I have anything against it, but I like tweaking my stuff. It's therapeutic for me for some reason. Okay, this line here should be taller in our mockup, so I'm gonna fix that. That's the testimonial divider. Let's make the height 105%. Margin at the top, 15, well, sorry, minus 2.5%. And then let's put it to 0 for everything else. Let's try 1.25. Okay, maybe not that much either. 0.5, yeah. My math was a little off for whatever reason there. Okay, let's also fix the letter spacing. No, sorry, not letter spacing, line height for these objects here. About 2.5 rem is good. Does introduce one minor problem though. This is where floats can be a little bit annoying, and that is that you can see this here is actually coming underneath the image. So let me see, if I remember correctly, Clear should fix this. Or is Clear supposed to go on this? No. That didn't work either. Also, floats are not going to work for this particular thing here, like I was hoping they would. Because if I have text like this, it's going to come beneath the image. That's where floats, they're good for like long paragraphs that have text wrapping around them, but they're not good when you don't want the text to wrap around them. That's where Flexbox comes in handy. So let's set this to display flex. See something here. I should be able to fix this, I think, with flex 1. Okay, that didn't do it. Okay, that didn't do it either. All my random fixes I'm trying are not working because I'm actually technically being lazy at this point in terms of fixing this thing. It's not that hard to fix. What I have to do is wrap these up in something else, and then that should fix the problem. There we go. I just didn't feel like coming back to the HTML, so I was trying to see if there was a quick fix in CSS that I could remember, but no, there is not, unfortunately. Oh good, I have the same text in both of them. Ways move self. Perfect. for this one, I'm going to add UNC testimonial right. And then we just need text align right. Alright, so some of this excess text can now come out from here. I don't know how this got pasted there, by the way. Oh yes, the blurb. We need to style the blurb. I'm going to style the other lines here in a little bit, but that is gonna take a little bit of work. Hopefully not too long, because I don't want to carry on the stream much longer than this. I'm probably gonna have to come back to this this mock-up in a future episode, because it took a little longer to pull together than I was hoping to. As you can imagine, CSS, as much as it is sometimes pretty straightforward and simple stuff, for me at least, it is a lot of work. It takes a while to get things together sometimes, especially when you're teaching, so to speak, like I'm doing, because trust me, when it comes to building websites, I typically just take maybe a couple hours to build something like this here, but I'm kind of slowing it down at this point, as you can probably imagine. Alright, so UNC blurb, that is this bunch of text right here. Shouldn't take much to style this. We'll give it a margin of 5 view height and 5 view width. Text align center. Font size 1.5 rem. As for the italic font that we're using, I'm going to fix that shortly as well. Align height. Let's go at 2.5 rem for that. Maybe a little more than 2.5, because I had that for the articles, but I'm going to need more line height for this. Okay, that's huge. I didn't mean 3. I accidentally typed 35 and I meant 3.5. Good. 3.5 looks nice. Let us just increase the padding on the, well, the margin on the side. So I'm going to go with like 7.5 or even more than that. Font size could also be bigger, so okay, maybe not 2.5. 2. Hello Firefox. I didn't answer you, Firefox. That was an accident. Y'all can't see it, but I accidentally opened Firefox just now by accidentally clicking on a reference, which I did not need. Alright, so not 2.5. How about 2.15? 1.735? Yeah, that's good. Alright, let's grab that italic font. Fonts.google.com, and let's see what we can find here. I don't have Alexander on Google Fonts, I don't think, but that's the one I would prefer to use. Yeah, definitely don't have Alexander. Alex Brush doesn't look bad, but it's probably too fancy font for the purposes of what we're doing. We'll see. Let me try importing it and see what it looks like. Oh wait, I didn't add it. Where is the scroll bar gone? Alright, so let's add this font family here. Font family, Alex Brush, and cursive. Are you cursing me, boy? Alright, that actually doesn't look bad. Now I think about it, that looks pretty nice. I'm not sure if it's the most legible font though, but it does look nice. But we need a more legible italic font than this, or cursive I should say. A more legible cursive font than that, so we'll try something different. Categories, serif, sans serif, display, handwriting, monospace. Right, there we go. Now, choosing fonts again is another very important aspect of design, because you don't just want to choose something that looks cool. It has to be both legible and aesthetically pleasing. That's a hard balance to strike sometimes, but you also have to think about what it is that you're trying to convey to a visitor. So like, take for instance, this is a barbershop. We want that barbershop to feel friendly and welcoming, but you still want it to have kind of that clean cut professional feel. I hope you're catching my drift with those words. And plus you have to think of the clientele that they're hoping to attract. So you don't want to choose a font like, I mean, this font looks cool. I mean, it really does look cool. But does this really give the impression of clean cut and professional? Not necessarily. It looks nice, but for the purposes of a barbershop, no, it does not do its job. So we're going to need something a little less fancy, if you will. I mean, like Sacramento looks nice, but again, not necessarily going to fit the bill here. Yellowtail's too thick. Okay, Tangerine almost does the job, but these long lines will throw us off. So you can see this becomes a little bit of a tedious matter. This is also why, for those who don't know, that you tend to charge quite a bit for design, because it's work. You know, the funny thing is, bad script is like one of the first I've seen that comes close to what we want. But it's not cutting it, but it's close. Let me see something here. If this font Latif has an italic, it does not have an italic form. Are you serious? It would have been perfect. I may just have to go back to a sans serif font, or a serif font, sorry, and choose one in italic form that would work. Let me see. Caractère, I believe is the pronunciation. This one might actually work. So let me see if this can do the trick. Okay, yeah, this looks like it can do the trick. I just need to increase the font size. It's still a little bit fancy for my taste, but it can do the trick, I think, at least for the purposes of this demonstration. Not perfect, but close enough. Now, another reason you want to consider what you're choosing in terms of fonts is because you have to consider the text that that font is going to be carrying. And so, like, take for instance here, the text that I chose to write is a story where they're on the infamous Pirate's Cove, where Blackbeard is alleged to have gotten his first haircut after returning from the Battle of Pineapple. Of course, that is absolute nonsense, but still, nonsense aside, we're thinking of a kind of like old English, you know, kind of environment, you know, maybe in some, like where I am in the Caribbean, this would probably be some seaside something. So you want to have that kind of maritime feel to it in the font itself. Does this have a T there? I just realized that has a T instead of a D. But anyway, all this time I did not realize that typo was there. But yeah, so you kind of want to capture the feel of what the text is describing, and you also want to capture the feel of what your client is going for. So I think this font kind of strikes that balance nearly perfectly. It's professional enough that it's, and it's legible enough that it's professional enough that it has the clean cut look that we're looking for, but it still has that kind of old school, well, old English, you know, dated kind of feel to it, and it matches then the text that it is actually carrying. Now this text down here I would have chosen a different font for, but I'm not going to do that today because time is getting away from us and we want to kind of wrap this up. So what I'll do here, I'll actually stick a pin in it for now in terms of designing this mockup. We have most of everything in place. It's just to put the lines between these two to fill in the story and fill in the events, and of course style this stuff up here and put in the image and everything like that. But basically we have something workable. Oh, and there's one more thing I forgot, which is this menu here has to be made mobile ready. That's pretty simple and straightforward to do. You'll see how that works as well. But I hope you've been able to get something from this today and learn something along the way. If you didn't, no refunds because you didn't have to pay for this and it's free. But I hope you were able to get something from this. I enjoyed working on it. I'm going to be continuing this series for the foreseeable future, at least in terms of CSS stuff, but I may intersperse some other CSS related streams here and there going forward. We'll see, but for the most part I'll be focusing on this project, so you can look out for details to drop on my streaming page within like the week or so. I should have up some information about what I'm going to be doing and all that. And yeah, make sure you follow me on all my platforms, Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter. That's where you'll mostly find me. If you have any questions, suggestions, or anything like that, remember you can always drop me a comment, you can send me a message, or you can go to my website, rolandixr.pro/streaming, send me a message from there, and I'll be sure to respond. Also, make sure to check out my stores. If you go to my streaming page, there's a link there to all of my stores under the support tab. You can find my Redbubble, Teespring, and Gumroad pages, and you can grab all sorts of stuff from there. Especially, I encourage you to go and check out my Gumroad page because I am releasing some free right now resources on there, but I'm also releasing some paid resources that you can check out, including templates and other stuff, so make sure to give it a look. But until next time, you all know who I am. I am Roland Taylor, aka Roland Dixor. You can catch me next week Tuesday for another graphic stream, and next week Thursday for another CSS stream. My times are going to change most likely in the near future, so make sure that you stay on top of it on my Twitter and on my blog, because I'm going to be announcing my new times for streaming when I can, so just stay on top of that. Alright, so yeah, until next time, y'all, I am out. Hope you have a good evening, and thank you for watching.